ay, 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 da, 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 ya, da, ya, da, dum. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 dum. Yay da 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 da, yay da da dum, yay da 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 da, ay da da dum, yay da 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 da, yay da da dum, ay da da da, ay 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 dum. Good afternoon. This morning I hoped on connecting in the morning, which I normally do whether I'm in my office or on the road. But for some reason, there was no connectivity, the internet connection, Wi-Fi in a parking lot from the building I was adjacent to, as well as my regular cell service just wouldn't could not connect. So here we are, a different time today. Sometimes you just have to change it up anyway. It's a beautiful day. It's kind of changed up, right? It feels like we thought we were heading in the direction of darker, chillier fall days, heading towards winter. And yet here we are in a day 70 plus degrees. The sun is shining and it feels different. Kind of feels different like when we see a rainbow in the sky. Feels different. The rain comes and all of a sudden everybody is bow searching. It's kind of just human nature after a rainstorm to look for such a thing. So when we think about life, sometimes you're looking back in order to look forward. You're looking for something that's bridging two different types of moments at any given time. And I think for a lot of us, it's sometimes hard to see the rainbow, but sometimes not so hard. Sometimes it's quite easy. Sometimes we expect to see it, so we search and search, and no matter if it's what we wanted it to be or not, there's something that tells us, you know what? I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it. So this week's Parsha is the old famous Noah, the story of Noah, or Noach, as it is said in Torah time. And so the story goes beyond just the ark and the animals, or God destroying the world by flood. Right? Those are the quintessential, this is what it's like. We know what it's like. We know what to expect. We know that the animals go 2 by 2, that there's kosher and non-kosher. We know all of these things, right? We've heard them in many different variations of story from the time we were children until, well, now in this moment. And so a lot of us connect children's Bible stories to our lives. Whenever it was that we first heard that story, who was teaching you that story? Who would it be this time? Oh, the Jews are, the land is being destroyed because, well, the people weren't good. We hear of this several times throughout Torah. But we also hear about this now in these moments, in this life that we're living. A rainbow happening in this week of Parshat Noach. Yesterday I did a funeral at Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn. If you haven't been there, it is quite fabulous. It is not pleasant to drive there. It took me 2.5 hours to get there, 2 hours to get home, which was less than favorable, of course. But it's an arboretum and it's beautiful. But as I was driving back through Queens, the sky was getting dark. I thought to myself, I didn't think a storm was to be. But perhaps we only look at the hyperlocal forecast of wherever we are. And as I drove through the storm, it was quite dark ahead, and I drove through the storm. And right after I drove through the storm, there it was, a rainbow during the week of Parshat Noach. Reminded me of the rainbow during a time of devastation and despair in the Middle East. There's less talk about hostages and conditions for humanity. There's also lots of despair in the idea of friendships being ruined as we come into election series and time. Even watching the Yankee game just feels like, okay, how many more of these commercials could we watch? When we think about the devastation in the world, we think about candidates, we think about, ugh, this is never going to be the right thing anyway. Neither is good, both are good. I don't like this side, I don't like that side. This is what it is. But the rainbow as a storm keeps heading towards us. I keep wondering, even after every time I see a rainbow, and it reminds me of the story of, you know what, we wiping out the wickedness. And here is this rainbow as a covenantal agreement that we will find our way in the world to restart. I can't help but thinking in every weathered storm that we find ourselves on the other side, whether we see a rainbow or not, who will it be this time? Who will we be as the storms are raging? Who will we be in the face of horror and devastation and fear and pain and uncertainty in the world? Dr. Aviva Zornberg explained that Noah learned alert, attentive kindness in the ark. Needed to take care of all the animals. Noah grew curious. He grew interested in the working of creation, and his awareness, his interest, and curiosity grew. Sensitivity and compassion and a deep caring for others emerged. And through this, life was renewed. When we hear the story of Noah and when we take it apart, especially as we teach it to the youth, it is, who is a righteous man? Noah is a righteous man. And who is righteous plus? Like, he did what God said, but didn't really warn the people around him. So he's righteous in the fact that he listened to the command. But as people, are we righteous plus, as I like to call it? We're going to do what God says, but we're going to make sure the wickedness around us or those that we want to save with us are in the know, right? We want to do a little bit more than just what God says to do. Who will it be in this time, and in what ways will we find our way? As human beings, I feel it's our reminder to acknowledge the presence of the raging storms that are among us, surrounding us, ones that we travel through. But in them, knowing that they exist, not ignoring their existence, that we find the willingness and the strength to be loving, to be kind, to be generous with ourselves and each other. Hopefully, we can find the fortitude to reach out to one another instead of pushing away, rather to come together and make sure that no one is left alone in despair. Not like Noah, who was righteous, but said like, oh, okay, you're going to stay there. I'm moving forward. I'm going to do what I'm doing because God told me to do it that way. But perhaps we can do what God told us to do and be inclusive of others so no one is left alone in despair. May we have that courage to experience the devastating sorrow, the pain, the difficulty, the stress, the everyday anxiety, and still rise. As those waters were rising, so too was the ark above, the saving vessel. May there be moments where we lift our eyes and we're met by the beauty and mystery that is so incredible. It's so mind-blowing. We can't even see what's mind-blowing because our minds are blown by the disasters around us, and rather we hope and we pray that we have moments where there is this astounding beauty that we can see beyond, that we can see that rainbow in the distance even when we're stuck in the storm. That rainbow will propel us forward and onward into and past. Dedicated to the possibilities of healing, of love, of wholeness, and of peace. Let us weather the storms together in hopes that we can attach to that rainbow in the future. For we are one human family, one heart of abundant love. We love you, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning for prayer connection at 9:30. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. 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 Ora Avinu Chai. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and evening, everyone.